Tonight, breaking news, officials investigating a possible case of monkeypox in New York City. It comes after a case of the rare virus was confirmed in Massachusetts. An outbreak spreading through Europe now, puzzling experts what the CDC is now saying about the risk to other Americans. Also breaking tonight, boosters for kids. The CDC greenlighting a third Pfizer vaccine dose for children ages 5 to 11. This as the U.S. sees 100,000 new daily COVID cases for the first time in months. Could we see a return of mask mandates or other COVID restrictions? The FDA commissioner grilled on Capitol Hill over a growing baby formula shortage. Lawmakers pressing him on how the crisis was able to get this far, with several babies hospitalized due to the shortage. The FDA now saying shelves will start getting restocked within days. How the White House is working to speed up that process. Families confront the shooter, the suspect in that Buffalo supermarket mass shooting, in court today. Indicted on a first-degree murder charge, with family members of the victims yelled at the 18-year-old as he was let out in shackles. Set on fire, the shocking moment police tased a man as he was pumping gas, causing him to catch fire. Police responding to reports of motorcyclists with guns, but authorities are now acknowledging no firearm was found. The man still hospitalized as he recovers from burns on 75% of his body. And severe storms strike, millions under alert for heavy rain, winds, and golf ball-sized hail, plus the heat warnings as we head towards the weekend. Top story starts right now. And good evening. We start with breaking news. Health officials now investigating a possible second U.S. case of monkeypox, this time right here in New York City. Health officials saying the person is in isolation at the hospital and are now conducting preliminary tests. It comes after a case of the rare virus was confirmed in a man in Massachusetts. Officials there say that man did recently travel at least 5 European countries, also reporting an outbreak. Experts are not yet sounding the alarm, but we want to get right to NBC's Zincle Esamoah, who leads us off tonight.
Tonight, there's a rare disease infecting people around the globe, and it's not coronavirus, it's monkeypox.
Honestly, I feel like at this point, it's not even a surprise anymore. I'm just waiting for the apocalypse to happen, pretty much.
It's not the apocalypse, but on Wednesday, officials confirmed a first U.S. case of the virus this year in a male patient in Massachusetts. Now, a second potential case being investigated in New York City.
The patient was placed in an airborne infection isolation room in our special pathogens unit.
According to the CDC, monkeypox was discovered in monkeys in 1958. More than a decade later, it spread to humans. The first case was found in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1970, and then more in remote parts of Central and West Africa. By 2003, the first monkeypox case hit the U.S.
A bizarre new viral outbreak right here in this country.
Since then, experts say widespread smallpox vaccination likely curbed monkeypox infections worldwide. But it's back. As of Thursday, countries including the United Kingdom, Portugal, Sweden, Spain, France, and Italy have newly confirmed cases. The World Health Organization now deploying an incident response team in the UK with at least 8 cases there. The U.S. case is a man who recently traveled to Canada. He's hospitalized and in stable condition.
The current patient is of no public health risk right now, and people should just be aware of symptoms, but not be afraid in any way.
Symptoms include fever, fatigue, fluid-filled bumps, and lymph node swelling, with specific communities at risk.
The risk factor here has been men having sex with men.
The CDC says, regardless of sexual orientation, monkeypox can spread through contaminated items, fluids or sores, or air droplets of an infected person, though the virus does not spread easily.
At this time, we don't want people to worry. At this point, again, these numbers are still small. We want them to be aware of these symptoms, and if they have any concerns, to reach out to their doctor.
Still, officials warn that they see no clear links between the Western monkeypox infections and countries where monkeypox usually occurs.
What we have seen in the United Kingdom, in Spain, and in Europe has been novel, and that gives us cause for concern.
Okay, Zincle Esamoah joins us now live from here in 30 Rock. So Zincle, you mentioned that breaking news tonight, another potential monkeypox case here in New York City. What do we know about that?
That's right, Tom. And it seems the virus is spreading fast. We know that the New York Department of Health and Mental Hygiene announced a possible case of monkeypox in New York City just this evening. The patient is being treated at a local area hospital. That said, I need to emphasize monkeypox is rare. Experts at Johns Hopkins say most clinicians will never actually see a case in their lifetime, and others caution against comparing monkeypox to COVID because, unlike coronavirus, Tom, monkeypox is not novel. It has been studied before. We've seen it. And according to the CDC, most people will recover in 2 to 4 weeks, but still definitely something to watch. Tom?
Okay, Zinkley, we thank you for that. For more on monkeypox and how it spreads, I want to bring in Dr. Kavita Patel. Dr. Patel, thanks for joining Top Story tonight. I know we just recently reached out to you to ask you about monkeypox. What exactly is happening right now? What do people need to know?
Yeah, I think, Tom, the most important thing is what you just ended with, that you do not want to try to, I know it's tempting to compare this to COVID-19 or the coronavirus, but here's what we do know. This has been around since the 1950s, first human transmission or human case in the 1970s. What's unusual and what we need to get to the bottom of, Tom, is how the cases that we see in the United States tied to other cases in other countries. Very rare to have what we call human-to-human transmission. It occurs. That's a key difference between this and the coronavirus. And another thing that we do know is that this is from the same family of viruses that cause smallpox and chickenpox. And clinically, most patients tend to have those kind of pox-like, think of chickenpox, smallpox, those things that we've seen in textbooks. But many people, as you heard, do recover. Finally, we have vaccines. There has been a proof of cross-reactivity from the smallpox vaccine to help with monkeypox. So I know it's tempting, but absolutely clear, rare and different.
I understand that it's not like coronavirus. I don't know if anybody has said that, but I think people are going to be concerned just from the images they see, and that it is spreading in Europe. Right. There are now growing cases here. We had a doctor say it's spreading fast. How do you get it? Like, how exactly is it transmitted?
It's directly transmitted when it's human to human. It's directly transmitted through contact with droplets. So different than airborne with I'm making the comparisons to COVID because I think that's where most people's brains are going. Certainly right. When you hear about these things, that's where I would think of especially, but it's droplets to droplets and really prolonged contact, Tom. Most of the transmission cases are generally animal to human. So something like either dead animals or incorrectly cooked meat or even scratches or bites. So again, we have to kind of figure out, like, how is this spreading? And is it people who've been in really prolonged contact with other people? But it does generally resolve. And it has, again, I think a plus is that we do have proof of cross-reactivity from the smallpox vaccine. That gives us some options.
Real quick, because I've seen some reporting on this. Is there any way it transmits through shaking of hands or rubbing skin to skin?
It's possible, but I mean, Tom, it would have to be literally something like a large amount of kind of bodily secretions on the hand and kind of prolonged contact. So not what we would generally see in a casual handshake or something like that. But you're bringing up exactly the kinds of things that investigators are looking for and trying to get to the bottom of.
Dr. Patel, we thank you for clearing so many things up for us tonight on this breaking news. We want to move on now to concerns over the coronavirus as COVID-19 cases across the U.S. are up more than 55% in the last 2 weeks. Tonight, the CDC clearing the way for children as young as 5 to get their third shot. But right now, less than a third of U.S. children ages 5 to 11 are fully vaccinated, and many parents are skeptical. Gabe Gutierrez has the latest.
Late today, CDC advisors voted 11-1 to recommend Pfizer's COVID booster shot for children ages 5 to 11, after the FDA also greenlit it on Tuesday. The booster doses will soon be available to children 5 months after they receive their first 2 shots.
They have a good immune system. I don't understand why they needed a booster.
Others are asking what's taking so long for any vaccine for kids under 5. The head of the FDA says an advisory panel will consider Moderna's application soon.
Children are not just small adults, and so you have to do specific studies.
This as the U.S. sees 100,000 new daily COVID infections for the first time in months, even without recording all at-home test results. Over the past 2 weeks, cases nationwide are up 55%, but deaths are down almost 20%. New York City is back under high COVID alert, now recommending masks indoors for people over 2, but no mandate.
It's a minor inconvenience, but I think, if that's what they're suggesting, might as well take all precautions.
As the U.S. prepares for wave after wave.
The people that really need to consider getting boosted are any adult over the age of 60. The evidence is clear. And then if you're between the ages of 50 and 60 and you have other chronic conditions, I would also encourage you to get a booster.
All right, Gabe Gutierrez joins us now here on set. So, Gabe, let's go back to that breaking news. Do we know when the boosters are going to be made available?
Well, Tom, the CDC director is expected to sign off on the COVID boosters, Pfizer's COVID booster for kids ages 5 to 11, basically right away, very soon, so parents could start to get them for their kids by this weekend.
But there's a real concern, right, because some parents obviously have been hesitant to even give their kid the vaccines in the first place.
Yeah, and and that came up during the meeting. There's some questions about whether this was necessary right now, because so far less than a third of kids in that age group have actually gotten their initial vaccine, so some question whether the booster was available. And it also came up that about 70% of kids ages 5 to 11 have some evidence of prior infection, so they may already have some immunity, Tom.
All right, Gabe Gutierrez first. Gabe, we appreciate that. Next tonight, parents concerned about the nationwide shortage of baby formula may soon have some relief, but will it come quick enough? Congress pressing the head of the FDA today, expressing outrage at the pace of the FDA's response to this massive shortage, just a day after the White House announced a major new step to speed up supplies of the formula. Chief White House correspondent Kristen Welker has more.
Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle grilling the FDA commissioner.
Why did the FDA not spring into action?
It is an emergency and it's been for way too long.
Commissioner Robert Califf pressed on the question millions of parents want to know. When will formula be back on shelves?
We should begin to see improvement within days.
So I can tell my constituents that within a matter of days, they'll be able to find formula on the shelves?
Within days, it will get better, but it will be a few weeks before we're back to normal.
The Biden administration facing fierce criticism for what many are calling a slow response to the crisis that's been brewing for months after Abbott, the nation's largest formula manufacturer, shut down a Michigan plant in February due to contamination, snarling nationwide supply. A whistleblower raised concerns to the FDA as far back as October.
It's hard to see any evidence that FDA has made it a priority to get this plant cleaned and cleared and back online.
The FDA giving a target date for when the plant could reopen.
We had to really wrestle this to the ground with Abbott. I think we are on track to get open within the next week to 2 weeks.
President Biden taking action, invoking the Defense Production Act to speed up the return of formula to store shelves, and ordering the Pentagon to direct planes to fly in formula from overseas. The first flight, expected to go from Zurich, Switzerland to Plainfield, Indiana, could happen as soon as this weekend. But questions raised about whether it will meet FDA standards.
We will not let infant formula into the U.S. that is not safe.
You don't have in place a mechanism that would guarantee the safety right now. You just don't.
The demands for results mounting, with stores across the country running out of stock and families running out of options.
All right, Kristen joins us now from the White House. So, Kristen, you know things are bad when the word czar gets thrown around. Is there new pressure for a, quote, baby formula czar to be appointed?
There is, Tom. In fact, there's been growing bipartisan pressure, lawmakers urging the administration to appoint a baby formula czar, which is basically like a point person. You appoint one when there's a crisis. We have pressed administration officials throughout the day. Do they actually plan to appoint someone to this type of role? The response that we're getting, they tell us they have nothing to preview at this time, but this part is important. They haven't ruled anything out. So the possibility is potentially still on the table. And again, Tom, this all comes as we're getting that new information. The fact that those first flights to pick up baby formula from overseas could start to go out as soon as this weekend. Tom.
All right, Kristen Welker for us. Kristen, we do appreciate that. We are going to turn now to the economy. Another roller coaster day on Wall Street. The S&P 500 and Dow Jones falling sharply today on the brink of a bear market. This has lit the Labor Department saying the last week's jobless claims rose to the highest level since January, a troubling sign that economic growth could be slowing down. NBC's Tom Costello has the details.
In North Texas, the Washington family says skyrocketing rent, food, and gas prices are forcing them out of their townhouse. Now looking for an RV to buy as they juggle competing bills for a family of 6.
Groceries or clothes for my kids. Groceries or electricity.
Pay on the car note, pay on rent, or pay rent, pay the utilities.
And while gas prices have hit new highs, diesel fuel is up a staggering 75% in 1 year, a record, biting into Pam Poliak's Milwaukee trucking company that ships food across the Midwest, just as her own drivers need cost of living increases, all of it getting passed on to grocery shoppers.
I see a great tug and pull between costs and expenses and then what we're getting paid. Which just, it means money's going to get tight for everybody.
Now, the Federal Reserve is facing one of its toughest challenges in decades, raising interest rates to cool inflation without killing consumer demand and jobs and pushing the economy into recession.
We need to see inflation coming down in a convincing way. That's what we need to see.
But already, Equifax reports more consumers with low credit scores are falling behind on their credit card payments, car, and personal loans.
It is possible that all the experts, all the economists get it wrong, and the U.S. economy does avoid a recession. But for that to happen, we need to see prices start to moderate or come down very soon.
Tom Costello joins us now from Washington. Tom, we've been covering pretty intensely the warning signs coming out about a possible recession for this country. And I know tonight you have some new reporting on some big hiring slowdowns from some very major companies. And they're companies I think a lot of our viewers will be surprised to hear that they're slowing things down.
Well, the bright spot on this economy has been the unemployment rate. It's at about 3.5%, very low. But we're now seeing some companies announcing hiring slowdowns. That includes Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Netflix announcing layoffs. As you know, their stock got hammered recently. And Amazon says it is now overstaffed after being on a hiring binge for years. And then in addition, Tom, I talked to a trucking company today. They say that they are carrying less freight. That would suggest that they are seeing the earliest signs of a slowdown in demand. Sometimes that gives you a sense of where the economy is headed.
Could be another warning sign. All right, Tom, we thank you for that. As big companies start to scale back their business, we wanted to bring in someone from a small business to talk about the impact of inflation and the economy right now. Amanda Nguyen joins us now. She's the owner of Bakery Butter and in San Francisco, a very popular bakery there. Amanda, tell our viewers the kind of price increases you're seeing and you're having to pass on to your customers.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tom. We're seeing a lot of price increases across the board at our cake shop, anywhere, like any of the ingredients, butter, sugar, wheat, flour has been really expensive. And I started another company, Pastel, where we work with a lot of other bakeries to help them transport their products. And we've been noticing price increases across the board just to cover, the cost of goods sold. I mean, even transporting your cakes with gasoline in California, I have to imagine that keeps you up at night. Yeah. My next company, Pastel, we have a fleet of 10 vans. It was really hard to buy the vans because of supply chain, and now operating the vans and running them all around the Bay Area to deliver these products has gotten a lot more expensive as well. So, Amanda, I know from the research that your bakery is doing well and you're blessed in that way that your customers are still buying your product, even though you've had to raise prices. I've seen your cakes online. They look beautiful. They look delicious. But I have to ask you, there are all these sort of red flags about the economy. Do you worry about what's around the corner? Yeah, a little bit. I think there's a couple of ways to think about it. Just from like the data, we're seeing strong consumer behavior for my cake shop and for the businesses on Pastel. Everyone is seeing growth, but it's hard to ignore, layoffs and hiring freezes. It's very interesting. Just from Butter and, we were trying to hire last year, and it was really hard to find anyone to hire. Now we're hiring for 2 more roles, and there are a lot more applications coming in. So it's just an interesting data point to observe. But it does seem like labor markets are shifting, and yeah. That's a positive point. And finally, as you sort of possibly prepare for what's around the corner, what do you do as a small business owner? Do you just kind of take it day by day and see where it goes, or do you have to do some sort of planning beforehand? Good question. I think as a small business owner, it's really important to be as wise as you can about having diversified revenue streams. With Pastel, it's been really helpful for Butter and being able to reach more customers around the Bay Area. The other businesses that are on Pastel have also enjoyed just increasing revenue a little bit makes a really big difference, especially in such a volatile time. It's really important to have a little bit of savings to prepare for a month where you might actually lose money because of increasing prices of materials. So as a small business owner, just like continuously react to the times and be as prepared as you can.
Amanda Nguyen, thank you so much for opening up and talking a top story tonight. We wish you good luck in the days ahead. Next tonight, we want to turn to the suspect accused of carrying out that horrific shooting in a Buffalo supermarket. He was in court today, appearing before a grand jury, the 18-year-old facing murder charges, standing feet from the families of the people he killed. All this as the federal government considers hate crime charges. What the family members shouted at him in court. Emily Aketa has the latest.
Handcuffed and flanked by officers, the Buffalo shooting suspect in court today for the second time since he allegedly gunned down 10 people. All were black. A grand jury indicting the 18-year-old on first-degree murder as the Justice Department is investigating the shooting spree as a hate crime and racially motivated violent extremism. Wearing an orange jumpsuit, the accused killer kept quiet before a crowded courtroom, including victims' families. Emotions spilling over as the suspect, who's pleaded not guilty, was escorted out.
Hey, you're a coward.
In the room, Bishop Glenwood Young, who lost his sister-in-law, Pearl.
What was it like being just a matter of feet from this accused killer?
It was so tense inside the courtroom. It was an eerie feeling to see this person walk in that had caused this traumatic thing to happen in the community. The damages have already been done. These people will be hurting for the rest of their lives. I know I will.
Tonight, in a small step towards normalcy, the yellow tape cordoning off the Tops grocery store is being replaced with fencing. This community centerpiece is no longer considered an active crime scene.
Tops understands the role it plays in the Jefferson Avenue community and the role that this store plays in particular to the neighborhoods, and honestly the role that we play in the city of Buffalo. And it will take some time for us to understand exactly the specific timeline for opening. We want to make sure that it is done right and we open it in a respectful manner for our associates, our employees, and for the community at large.
All right, Emily Aketa joins us now. Emily, we know, as you mentioned there, the tape has come down from around the Tops grocery store, but that community is still receiving threats?
Yeah, that's right, Tom. The aftermath of the shooting continues to torment this community as threats target sporting events, restaurants, and schools. One nearby school district says up to a third of its students stayed home from school this week. Tom?
That's horrible. Emily Aketa for us. Emily, we appreciate it. We want to head overseas now to the war in Ukraine. In response to the Russian offensive, Sweden and Finland may soon join NATO, but one country is standing in their way, Turkey, arguing that the Nordic nations are housing enemies of the Turkish people. And all this as Russia tightens its grip on southern Ukraine. Here's NBC's Richard Engel.
At the White House today, it looked like smooth sailing that Sweden and Finland will become the newest members of NATO to deter Russia from invading them like it did Ukraine.
They meet every NATO requirement and then some.
But there's a catch. Turkey, which like all NATO members must sign off, is saying no. President Erdogan calling both Sweden and Finland guest houses for terrorists. He's talking about the Kurds, specifically the Kurdish Workers' Party, or PKK, and associated Kurdish groups in Syria. Turkey considers them its biggest national security threat and says Finland and Sweden have ignored Turkish extradition requests. U.S. officials in private suspect Turkey wants concessions, but will ultimately go along.
We will commit to Turkey's security just as Turkey will commit to our security.
But NATO's squabbles only help Russia, which is tightening its grip on southern Ukraine after its victory in Mariupol.
Tom, Russia only captured Mariupol by destroying most of the city, and there are suggestions tonight from a top Russian official that Moscow plans to annex Mariupol and large parts of southern Ukraine. President Putin has yet to comment publicly. Tom?
Richard Engel for us again from Ukraine. Richard, thank you. We want to turn now to the forecast back here at home. Millions across the Midwest bracing for a mix of severe weather that could include dangerous golf ball-sized hail and tornadoes, while in the south, temperatures continue to soar. Record highs expected to reach up to 20 degrees above average. For more on the track, NBC meteorologist Bill Cairns joins us now live here in studio. So, Bill, walk us through the next couple days.
It is going to be a roller coaster. I mean, especially if you're in Colorado. More on that a little later. But as far as the worst weather goes, it has been a nightmare evening commute around St. Louis. We've had cars stranded on Interstate 55, St. Louis. The tornado sirens were going off. You were under a tornado warning. No tornadoes reported, but we do have about 20,000 people without power. We've had huge hail with these storms in Minnesota, much as 2-inch size hail. So that's almost like golf balls falling out of the sky. So I'm sure there's some damage from that. And we're still tracking these storms through southern Indiana and Kentucky. But by far, the worst of it and the strongest of these storms is exiting St. Louis. You're safe now. But those storms now with a new tornado warning near Central. This is right along Interstate 70 here as we're heading out of Missouri and into areas of southern Illinois. So heads up to all our friends in this area. A good half hour or so. Stay indoors. Let that pass through. Then you can head back out. And how about the heat over the next couple of days? We've had record highs in Texas throughout the south, but now it's going to spread. So this is as we go into Friday. Still record highs and close to it in Dallas and Little Rock and Shreveport. But Cleveland, you're expecting a record high. Close in St. Louis. Charleston is going to be 96 degrees in West Virginia in the middle of May. We're going to be 97 in Raleigh. And then on Saturday, that surges all the way back up into the Northeast. New York City will be near record highs. Same with D.C. And it's not just hot. It's going to be humid, too. It's going to be like July humidity, and that's going to just make it feel like, the gross portions in the middle of the summer.
We've been complaining about the cold weather, so I'm not going to complain about the heat. Before you go, though, you mentioned Colorado. I know ski season's over, but we're talking snow?
I wouldn't be surprised if someone opens back up. I mean, this isn't just like, oh, it's snow. I mean, this is going to be a huge event for this area. Winter storm warnings are up for a good portion. It's not just the higher elevations either. Denver and Boulder under winter storm warnings. Fort Collins, too, and Castle Rock. And the snowfall forecast is pretty incredible. Everywhere in purple is higher than 8 inches, 1 to 3 feet in the mountains, 4 to 12 inches in Denver and the burbs. The problem is the leaves are on the trees. Down limbs and power outages are definitely a possibility. It went so far as the National Weather Service was telling people, do not park your cars tomorrow under trees and do not walk under trees during this snowstorm.
In May. That's so wild. All right, Bill, we appreciate that. Still ahead tonight. Amber Heard's defense team digging into Johnny Depp's past. One of his exes testifying he was jealous and controlling. Plus, lawyers in Florida say their client is fighting for his life after a police officer hit him with a taser at a gas station. And guess what happened? Fire all over his body. The new charge against the deputy. And an out-of-control wildfire in Texas burning thousands of acres. The rush tonight to save homes. Stay with us. All right, we are back now with the $50 million defamation trial between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. A parade of witnesses presented today in an attempt to paint a picture of Depp's troubled past, as well as testimony that speaks to Heard's $100 million counterclaim. Our Steve Patterson has the story.
Tonight, the defense presenting the ghost of Johnny's past.
Mr. Depp threw a wine bottle across the room, the hotel room on one instance.
Heard's team calling a flurry of character witnesses in pre-recorded testimonies, including ex-Ellen Barkin, all meant to draw attention to Depp's tattered history.
I just know he was always drinking or smoking a joint.
Depp's former business manager, Joel Mandel, testified about his extravagant lifestyle.
The spending levels had grown very, very, very large and required that level of incredibly high income to be maintained. And when it dropped off, the disconnect became untenable.
His former agent, Tracy Jacobs, testified to his behavior on set.
What do you mean by Mr. Depp's unprofessional behavior in the last 10 years of your representation?
Showing up late to set consistently on virtually every movie.
A former friend, Bruce Witkin, testified Depp had bouts of jealousy and drug use.
If she was on a film or doing something that he couldn't be around it to see what was going on, I think he'd work himself up.
Earlier in the day, Adam Waldman, Depp's former attorney and the subject of Amber Heard's countersuit, testified through deposition.
I would instruct the witness not to answer that question because
impossible to do so without disclosing attorney-client privilege.
Very little testimony making it on the record, but Waldman confirming he did make a 2020 statement to the Daily Mail about Heard's abuse allegations as, quote, a hoax.
Did you make that statement?
I believe I did.
But the crux of Heard's countersuit is that he was acting for Depp.
Did you make that statement on behalf of Mr. Depp?
Instruct the witness not to answer that question on attorney-client privilege grounds.
I accept the instruction.
It's the latest in a $50 million defamation suit brought by Johnny Depp after a 2018 op-ed was published in the Washington Post, where Heard described herself as a public figure representing domestic abuse. Heard countersuing for $100 million. Both Depp and Heard deny abusing each other. Actor Ellen Barkin, the most high-profile witness called, dated Depp while they were filming Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
She looked like a burnout caricature of Jane Russell. She was definitely in charge here.
The bottle she said he threw didn't hit anyone, and sources close to Johnny Depp say the wine bottle incident was not the result of a fight, but she said Depp's behavior went back years.
He's just a jealous man, controlling. Where are you going? Who are you going with? What did you do last night?
All right, some famous names testifying today. Steve Patterson joins us now from LA. You know, Steve, most of us have probably seen this case across social media and in the court of public opinion. It seems as if most are leaning in favor of Johnny Depp, but Heard's team called a social media expert to the stand today. Why?
Yeah, Tom, it was a software engineer called to the stand, Ron Schnell, almost as a preview to Heard's countersuit by drawing a connection between comments Depp's attorneys made about some of those abuse allegations being a, quote, hoax to the explosion of negativity we saw aimed at Heard online. Heard has alleged it's all part of a smear campaign that has damaged her career. Tom?
All right, Steve Patterson for us again. Steve, we appreciate that. We want to turn to some disturbing video we showed you at the top of the broadcast. It was released of a 26-year-old engulfed in flames at an Orlando gas station. What set off the blaze? Likely a police deputy's taser. Charges announced today for that deputy and the man on fire. Our Stephen Romo has that story.
Tonight, charges for a deputy and a suspect who's seen here on fire at an Orlando gas station.
He picked up the discarded taser that was located in gas. It says, "You're about to get tased, dude." Immediately after that statement, with the taser in his hand, the fire ignites.
Surveillance video showing 26-year-old Gian Barreto covered in flames. His attorneys, who provided the video from Wawa to NBC, say he was cooked alive.
We're not saying anything other than let's get the truth out, and it's not out.
Blue dirt bike, male doing wheelies.
Osceola County Sheriff Marco Lopez saying the February 27th incident started when 911 callers reported two men were driving dirt bikes aggressively and flashing guns at other drivers. A law enforcement helicopter followed, and it was at the Wawa gas station that deputies caught up with Barreto, whose bike they say matched the description of one of the suspects.
This is horrible, but you know what? What else do you do? It's the law. People call and complain. You got to go after these guys. You got to put a stop to it. It's bad behavior.
The sheriff saying Barreto was refueling when deputies confronted him. The gas cap was off and fuel started leaking. That's when the sheriff says Deputy Crawford fired a taser at Barreto and the gasoline ignited, setting Barreto and three deputies on fire. The case report cites the Bureau of Fire, Arson, and Explosives investigation, saying the taser was the probable cause of the inferno. Barreto's attorneys saying he had third-degree burns covering 75% of his body. Sheriff Lopez says deputies immediately got a fire extinguisher to put out those flames, and other deputies, including Crawford, suffered severe burns as well. Barreto now charged with 2 felonies, fleeing the police, and a third wheelie offense, plus reckless driving. The sheriff also announcing Deputy Crawford will be charged with culpable negligence, a misdemeanor. Sheriff Lopez says he has faith in his department. Barreto's lawyers say after 10 weeks in the hospital, he continues to fight for his life and will soon be placed in a medically induced coma.
All right, that video and those photos are just horrific. Steve Romo joins us now. So, Stephen, I got a question for you. You know, we don't know the protocol yet, but you'd think you probably shouldn't use a taser around, gasoline. this thing happened in February. Why are we getting answers so much later?
Yeah, the sheriff was saying today it just took a long time to get all the details together. For example, they weren't able to recover a gun from that situation. We do know the attorney for Barreto have called for an independent investigation. So far, the sheriff is saying that his department can handle it. Meanwhile, we tried to reach the attorneys again after the word of these charges have come out. We have not yet heard back from them. We also tried to reach out to Deputy Crawford, and our attempts to reach him have been unsuccessful so far. But a lot of questions remain about the decision-making and what's going to happen next.
Okay, Stephen Romo for us. Steve, we appreciate that. When we come back, the subway rescue, the new body cam footage showing the moment 2 New York City police officers pulled a blind man from the train tracks right before a train barreled into the station. Stay with us. All right, we are back now with Top Stories newsfeed and the massive fire at a marine construction company in Wisconsin this morning. Take a look at this. All that smoke blanketing the 24,000 square foot facility. Officials there say there were explosions inside because of burning diesel and liquid petroleum. At least 6 people were injured, including 3 firefighters. A judge has signed a disaster declaration in one Texas county because of an out-of-control wildfire that so far burned thousands of acres. Take a look at this video of the Mesquite Heat Fire. It's burning in Taylor County near Abilene. Officials say more than 50 homes have now been destroyed. And new video of a heroic subway rescue in New York City. New body cam footage showing the moment 2 NYPD officers saw a blind man fall right onto the tracks. They go to help him and then see a train barreling into the station. The officers wave it down in time and pull the man to safety. They told our station in New York they just did what anyone would do. And the CDC now investigating 180 cases of children who developed an unexplained and severe liver disease. The number of hepatitis cases it's looking into up from 109 earlier this month. The cases were found in 36 U.S. states and territories and date back to late October. Most of the kids are under the age of 5, I should say. At least 5 children died so far of this. It's not clear what caused the illnesses. And the fraudster behind that infamous Fire Festival released early from prison. You may remember Billy McFarland. He served 2 years of a 6-year sentence. He pleaded guilty to wire fraud and other crimes back in 2018 after promoting a luxurious music festival that actually had people eating cheese sandwiches and sleeping in tents. It was horrible. McFarland is now at a halfway house in New York. All right, now for Top Stories Global Watch and more violence from clashes in Sri Lanka. Hundreds of students marched in the capital, chanting against the government. Police fired tear gas and water cannons at the protesters to push them back. People demonstrating, demanding the arrest and removal of the country's president because of the financial crisis there. And new images tonight giving us a look at how China's zero COVID policy works. Video capturing crowds in a port city near Beijing. Look closely. Marched through streets and loaded onto buses for quarantine. That area has seen a rise in cases. Beijing so far has not imposed a citywide shutdown just yet. COVID restrictions there have tightened in recent weeks. And Peruvian police caught a drug smuggler at a prison, but it's unlike anything you've ever seen before. That smuggler, a pigeon. Officials spotted it when it landed in a puddle on prison grounds. They noticed a small package, you see it there, tied to its neck, holding more than an ounce of marijuana. An investigation is now underway into where the bird came from. All right, we want to go back to that baby formula shortage we were telling you about earlier in the broadcast. While officials in Washington work to combat the crisis, parents around the country are desperately searching to feed their babies now. NBC's Jolene Kent has more.
Sure, they only had it in the bigger.
Sydney Galvin has been on a desperate hunt for formula to feed her triplets.
These are babies, you know, like they shouldn't have to go through this.
Galvin depends on the Women, Infants and Children Nutrition Program, or WIC, for formula. She was supposed to be able to get 9 cans for each baby per month with the benefit, but because of the shortage, she can't find it. She's been forced to pay hundreds of dollars out of pocket for other formula not covered by WIC. Switching what you're feeding is not easy. How are the babies doing?
They weren't tolerating it very well at first, actually. They had a lot of reflux and they were puking a lot of what they were eating up.
To fill the gaps, she's driven nearly an hour to Mother's Milk Bank, the largest breast milk donor bank in the country. What has demand been like for the families who can't get formula?
They've been calling on a steady basis. These formula-fed infants and their families who can't find formula, that increased percentage is 300%. Those families are in crisis.
The lab is working overtime, first screening their donors. Then their milk is pooled, pasteurized, and tested to make sure there's zero bacteria before being distributed to babies in need. Texas has been hit particularly hard. Formula out-of-stock rates are at 50% here. Abbott Nutrition, whose voluntary recall and plant closure exacerbated the shortage, was the primary infant formula provider for 85% of WIC infants in the Southwest region. Even though the USDA has authorized states to allow recipients to purchase alternative formulas, more than half of the states do not tell parents what the substitute formulas are on their website. Sydney just hopes a solution is on the way.
How long does one pack of breast milk last for triplets?
It only lasts about 5 days, to be honest. It's something, so I'm just grateful for it.
Jolene Kent, NBC News, Austin.
Those are beautiful babies. Coming up, the burrito breakthrough. You're going to want to stay around for this story. It's life-changing. A group of college students trying to make sure your food never falls apart in your hands again. How they're doing this. We'll talk to one of the inventors. Stay with us. We are back now with a major breakthrough from Johns Hopkins on a serious issue affecting people nationwide, especially teenagers. We, of course, are talking about the anguish thousands each year feel when a perfectly constructed burrito or wrap falls apart in their hands. I mean, I know these are devastating images to watch right here, but a group of engineering students may have found an answer to this persistent problem. Tasty tape, an edible adhesive designed to keep the ingredients tucked tightly inside your favorite burrito instead of all over your plate. I'm joined now by one of the Tasty Tape's creators, Tyler Guarino, a chemical and biomolecular engineering student at Johns Hopkins. Tyler, thanks so much for joining Top Story tonight. You clearly are bright. You go to a great university. Tell me how you guys came up with this idea.
Yeah, so we actually came up with this idea for a product design course that we had to take. And starting last fall, we had to come up with a whole list of different inventions that we think that we can prototype and bring to life. And Tasty Tape was one of them, and it was obviously our favorite. And we thought, you know what, we think we can make this work and make a tape that can hold your burrito together. Because, I mean, if you're like me and your burrito breaks when you're in the middle of enjoying it, you somehow or sometimes blame yourself, right? You're like, what did I do wrong here? And then you blame whoever was making that burrito, whoever was wrapping it. You may have solved all the world's problems with this tape right here. But people might be a little concerned. Can they eat the tape? Of course. So all of the ingredients are common food and dietary ingredients. It's 100% edible. You can eat the whole thing. It has no taste to it. It's clear in color. In some of the photos, it's been dyed blue for visibility. And it has a texture that you don't notice. So it kind of just gets lost in the sauce of your burrito. And so if you're having a bad day and you have nothing to eat, can you eat just the tape? You can. It doesn't have any taste, though, so it won't be too exciting. So this invention has gone viral. So many people are talking about it. The product even got a shout out, I think, on Jimmy Fallon last night, right here on our mothership. Why do you think it's gotten so much attention? You know, we were not expecting this to, go viral and blow up. It's been a really fun experience for us. But I think the reason why it's become so popular is this is like an everyday issue that the average human faces. Everyone has had a burrito or wrap and it just fall all over them, make an absolute mess. And it's such a simple solution to such a common problem. So I think people really can relate to it. Have you been able to use Tasty Tape or have you had ideas to use it with other foods? Yeah, so now that, it's becoming so popular, we have other people telling us what else can we use this for? We've had people who think that it would be good to help adhere decorations to cakes and other things like that. So now we're kind of seeing where else it can be used. So first I want to ask you, did you already get your grade back for this project? Yes, I did. What did you guys get? An A+. Okay, all right. I'm glad that the university saw what we saw. What's next for Tasty Tape? I mean, Shark Tank? Are you thinking about going to Chipotle, Taco Bell? Yeah, I mean, we want to get it out there and see where this project can go. Me and one other student on the team are staying at Hopkins to get our master's. So we're going to continue to work on the project for the next year and see where it can take us. Have you gotten any offers? I mean, can this be scaled? Is it literally $1 million idea? I mean, I hope so. I have faith that it could be scaled. It's a very simple product to make, so I think it would be pretty simple to manufacture it and get it out there.
All right, finally, I know you can't disclose trade secrets, but what exactly is it made of? Is it made of ingredients that you could find in your kitchen, or is this something you guys had to put together in a lab?
So I prototyped everything in my kitchen here at home. It was all ingredients I can find and order online. Nothing too funky, just very common food ingredients and additives. Everything's GRAS certified, which is generally regarded as safe. Yeah.
All right,
eat it.
Tyler Guarino, congratulations on this incredible invention, and I hope to see it in a restaurant, or at least a grocery store near me sometime soon. All right, still to come tonight, baby on board, a mom of 3 becoming a mom of 4 mid-air. How a flight crew helped a woman with an unexpected delivery. That's coming up next. Finally tonight, baby on board, a Frontier flight to Orlando landing with an extra unticketed passenger. Sam Brock has more on the flight crew that sprang into action, ensuring both a safe landing and a healthy delivery.
Jada Lynn Skye was airborne, but not yet born, on a Frontier flight from Denver to Orlando when she surprised her mom-to-be, Shakiria Martin.
I was feeling fine and everything, and so I went to sleep, and I woke up, and my contractions was, yeah.
So your contractions woke you up in the middle of that flight?
Yes, yep.
And the first thought that runs through your mind is what?
Just cannot be, there's no way I could just have this baby on the plane.
But Mother Nature had her own plans. Shakiria, now a mother of 4, says it all happened quickly. She was guided to the back of the plane and shortly after went into the bathroom where she gave birth.
I go into the bathroom and like 2 big pushes and the baby comes out.
You went into the bathroom pregnant and you came out of the bathroom with the baby.
Yeah, yep.
While none of the crew had formal childbirth training, a team of people well-versed in emergency response all pitched in throughout the plane. The pilot turned over flying duties to the first officer and coordinated an emergency landing in Pensacola. Several flight attendants gathered medical equipment while shielding Shakiria in the back of the plane. One of them, Diana Giraldo, a calming presence, helped with the delivery.
I'm an older sister, so to me it's like, I saw this young woman, she was frightened, she was uncomfortable. There was no space inside of me for any doubt. I just had to make sure that I was there for her.
For Giraldo, the scariest part came after delivery, when the baby had trouble breathing. So Giraldo wrapped her in a blanket and held the newborn at an incline in an effort to clear away any fluid.
After a while, she started reacting, getting color back, and she started kind of like gargling a little bit and moving, which was a happy moment for all of us. It's a beautiful thing to bring life into the world.
The flight's captain called Giraldo's actions exemplary. Shakiria Martin, thankful for her baby's perfect landing.
I do want to give like a big shout out to the whole crew because they made me feel so much more comfortable.
The Skye in Jada Lynn Skye, of course, because of the circumstances of her birth. Now, if you can believe this, Shakiria might not have had the wildest childbirth experience on that plane because for her 3rd child, she was speeding on the way to the hospital, according to the sheriff's deputy who stopped her, going about 90 miles an hour. At that point, there was no more time. The sheriff's deputy had to help delivering her 3rd child on the side of the road. Thankfully, they did decide to let that ticket slide. Sam Brock, NBC News. Back to you.
That mom has some stories. All right, Sam Brock, we thank you for that. And we thank you for watching Top Story tonight. I'm Tom Llamas in New York. Stay right there. More news on the way.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.